Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again in Unit 9, City Living. Unit 9, City Living, Comparative and Superlative Adjectives. We will learn about comparative and superlative adjectives in details. Have got, town and country, directions. Starter. Think of a town or city in your country. Say where it is. Example: it's in the north, south, east, west, near the mountain, sea, on the river, and so on. So everyone tell us about a city without mentioning the name of the city. So this is a class activity talking about a city without mentioned which city that he is or she is talking about, and let the other participant guess which city that you are talking about. Okay? 2. Tape script 9.1. By the way, this activity we will discuss it during the class activity or discussion on WhatsApp. So be ready talking about a city. Okay? Tape script 9.1. Listen to the descriptions of two cities. Which cities are they? So let's listen.
Unit 9. Tape script 9.1. City living. 1.
This city is in the southeast of the country. It's very big and very old. It's about 50 kilometers from the sea, and it's on a famous river, the River Thames.
2. This city is in the north and center of the country. It's about 200 kilometers from the sea, and it's on the River Seine. It's one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world.
I prefer to listen again to this tape script.
Unit 9. Tape script 9.1. City living. 1.
This city is in the southeast of the country. It's very big and very old. It's about 50 kilometers from the sea, and it's on a famous river, the River Thames.
2. This city is in the north and center of the country. It's about 200 kilometers from the sea, and it's on the River Seine. It's one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world.
So your activity is similar to tape script 9.1. London and Paris, comparative adjectives. Tape script 9.2. Read and listen to the conversation. So let's listen to this conversation. Tape script 9.2.
Tape script 9.2. Which do you prefer, London or Paris?
Well, I'm from Paris, so of course I love Paris.
London's a lot bigger than Paris.
It's true, Paris is much smaller, but it's more romantic.
Yes, this is what people say.
And the food is better.
Well, I'm not so sure about that.
Practice the conversation. What are the differences between London and Paris? London's bigger than Paris, and so on, depending on the conversation that you have listened to. Grammar spot. 1. Regular comparative adjectives add er or more. Write the comparative forms: big, bigger, romantic, and so on, more romantic, small, smaller. We will talk about how to make superlative and comparative degrees. What are the rules? When do we add er? When do we use more? Okay? Some adjectives are irregular, just like good, better, bad, worse, and so on. You can find the grammar in regard superlative and comparative degrees on page 140, and so on. Okay. So here we go on page 141. Comparative and superlative degrees. London is bigger than Paris. Paris is more romantic. Bigger than, more romantic. It's the most exciting place. The most exciting. This is the best restaurant in the world. The best. So here we have the form, okay? Adjective, comparative, and superlative. Form: one syllable adjective: old, safe, big, hot. The comparative اللي هي درجة المقارنة. Superlative اللي هي التفضيل. Old, older, the oldest. Safe, safer, the safest. Big, bigger, the biggest. Hot, hotter, the hottest. These are one syllable adjective. يعني مقطع واحد. مقطع صوتي واحد. Adjectives ending in Y. If the adjective ending in Y, just like noisy, dirty, noisa, we change Y into I and add ER. Noisa, the noisiest. Dirty, dirter, the dirtiest. Two or more syllable adjectives, just like boring, beautiful, beautiful, 2 syllables. Boring, 2 syllables. The comparative we add more, okay? While in superlative we add the most, okay? Boring, more boring, because the word is consists of 2 syllables. Boring, more boring. The most boring. Beautiful, more beautiful. The most beautiful. So here we have irregular adjectives, just like good, bad, far. Good, better, the best. Bad, worse, the worst. Far, further, the furthest. Adjectives which end in one vowel and one consonant double the consonant, then add ER. Vowel اللي هو حرف العلة. Consonant حرف صحيح, just like fit, fit, fitter, thin, thinner. يعني إذا انتهت الصفة بحرف صحيح قبل حرف علة نضاعف الحرف الصحيح ونضيف ER. Most 2 syllable adjectives use more and most, but some 2 syllables adjectives use ER or EST. Modern, more modern. Most modern. Polite, more polite. Most polite. Okay? Quiet, quieter, quietest. Clever, cleverer, cleverest, and so on. 1. We can make comparison stronger using much and a lot. Just like London is much more beautiful than Paris. That's to make comparison stronger. Okay? Davis a lot more handsome than Petty. 2. Adverbs also have comparatives. We works harder than you. Can you come earlier than 8:30? So we back to the approach to what's the comparative form of the adjectives in the box. Tall, taller. Expensive, more expensive. Now, hot, cheap, nice, wet, warm, old, polite, beautiful, bad, good. These are homework for you, okay? Work with a partner, test each other on the comparative forms. Check the spelling. 3. Look at the pictures of London and Paris. Here we have pictures of London and Paris, okay? Here are pictures for London and Paris. compare the two cities. Use I think and the adjectives from exercise 2. 1. The Eiffel Tower, the Grinch, Churkin, sorry. I think the Eiffel Tower is taller than the Churkin. The metro, the underground, and so on. The weather, the buildings, the people, and so on. So make comparative between Paris and London. Tape description 9.3. Listen and compare. Practice the lines. Let's listen to tape script 9.3.
Tape script 9.3. 1.
The Eiffel Tower is taller than the Gherkin.
2.
The underground's more expensive than the metro.
3.
Paris is warmer than London.
Paris is wetter.
5. I think the buildings in Paris are more beautiful. 6.
I think the people in London are nicer.
4. Listen to Rob, an Englishman who lives and works in Paris. Complete his sentences. So let's listen to tape script 9.4.
Tape script 9.4.
Well, I like both London and Paris, but they're very different cities. Take transport, for example. The metro is cheaper and easier to use than the underground. And the weather, well, Paris is certainly hotter than London. And Paris, in fact, is wetter than London. But in London, there are more wet days. What about the buildings? Well, people say that the architecture in Paris is more beautiful, but the buildings in London are more interesting. And living in the two cities, well, life is faster in London. And the people? Londoners are generally more polite than Parisians. People in London work harder and they earn more. In Paris, having a good time is more important.
5. Work with a partner. Close your box. Try to remember what Rob said. So let's listen again. I prefer to Rob talking about Paris, comparing it with London.
Tape script 9.4.
Well, I like both London and Paris, but they're very different cities. Take transport, for example. The metro is cheaper and easier to use than the underground. And the weather, well, Paris is certainly hotter than London. And Paris, in fact, is wetter than London. But in London, there are more wet days. What about the buildings? Well, people say that the architecture in Paris is more beautiful, but the buildings in London are more interesting. And living in the two cities, well, life is faster in London. And the people? Londoners are generally more polite than Parisians. People in London work harder and they earn more. In Paris, having a good time is more important.
5, comparing cities. 1. Complete the conversations using the comparative form of the adjectives. Here, this exercise is as a homework for you. Number 1. New York is older than London. Older than, because it's comparative, not superlative degree, okay? B. No, it isn't. New York is much more modern. Tokyo, bracket, Bangkok cheap. Tokyo is cheaper than Bangkok, and so on. This exercise as a homework. 5. Work in small groups. Compare two capital cities, Okay, so let's make activities, please. And let's share ideas about the cities using comparative and superlative degrees. Thank you for your listening. Bye.